Hello, this is John McKinney. This is week 4 of our class, and this is a video journal primarily on what N.T. Wright has to say about justice, beauty, and evangelism. Briefly, I just want to make mention, since it is a kind of a journal of the week, about our thread and the work as worship discussion post that I posted, and just a great response from all students. And this is really where my heart is. How is creating and cultivating culture linked to our sense of calling and vocation? And of course, some quotes from Gabe Lyons. And the highlight for me was just to be able to include quotes from Tim Keller, from Martin Luther, and Lyons himself, and just really get into what I feel like my calling is at this season of my life, and that's essentially to help the adult student to be in vocation, in their calling, equipped to do so, despite their difficulties, hardships, setbacks, etc. So this is personal. 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with Lyme disease, and it kind of threw me for a loop. I took a little bit of time off of work to try to figure that out, and hired a coach who helps people with chronic illness stay working, because I knew after a couple months off of work that I was not meant to not work. And so she wasn't a Christian. Her scope and her help for me was limited, but it made me go, there's not enough of these folks out there that focus directly on this to keep people in their calling, even if they're struggling. So that's my heart for that. And then that vocational inventory, that thing was deep and very thorough. So some of the things that came out of that, just basically for me, was if we don't have an intentional focus on these things, then we'll miss them. And we could certainly, if we don't miss our calling, we could certainly delay it. So on to N.T. Wright's ideas about justice, beauty, and evangelism, really to essentially bring heaven to earth. He says at the end of this is about the Lord's Prayer. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So he says of justice that the church is to take up that sense of injustice and bring it to speech, to help people articulate it, and then turn it into prayer, which I thought was brilliant. That's a great way to put it. And then in schools and community facilities and so forth, to encourage new job opportunities, et cetera, and to foster hope at any level. That I want to highlight on page 231. To foster hope at any and every level is what he says. I think that's well put. Beauty, and this is, he says again, the church's job is to foster and sustain lives of beauty and aesthetic meaning at every level. So every level, schools, I love how he says the local pub, photography, art, sculpture, symphony, etc. And he says the new creation would bring forth for the whole community, pointing to the hope that, like all beauty, there's always a surprise. Those are his words, but just to foster beauty, my example is in my cubicle, which is, it's a cubicle, right? So I could just put up what I need to do my job and do it, but I live there, right? 8 hours a day. So plants, pictures, music, essential oils, whatever, to foster beauty. And you know, what is our scope of influence? How do we bring beauty to a pub? How do we bring beauty to a shopping trip? Whatever. The implications are vast. And then evangelism, really, I think it's about taking justice and beauty into relationships and situations and places where people don't know the Lord, and not so much accept Jesus or go to hell. More, I want to share something with you as I would a meal that will benefit you, it will feed you, and as was well put at my church this Sunday's Easter Sunday, Jesus, as the way, the truth, and the life, is home. He's preparing a place for you. When you get there, you'll understand it. It will make sense. You will accept it as, you receive it as home. But for now, before we're home, home isn't a place. It's not a city or a house or even a family. It's Christ, and in Him we are home. And so to share that with folks, considering beauty and justice. So there you go, week 4, video journal, and great week. I'm looking forward to week 5.